Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Muktanam api siddhanam Narayana Parayana Sudurlabha Prasantatma Kotishvapi Mahamune. O great sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of liberation, one may be a devotee of Lord Narayan or Krishna. Such devotees who are fully peaceful are extremely rare. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the following purport to this verse. Simply desiring mukti or liberation is insufficient. One must become factually liberated. When one understands the futility of the materialistic way of life, one becomes advanced in knowledge, and therefore he situates himself in the Vanaprastha order, unattached to family, wife, and children. One should then further progress to the platform of sannyas, the actual renounced order, never to fall again and be inflicted by materialistic life. Even though one desires to be liberated, this does not mean he is liberated. Only rarely is someone liberated. Indeed, although many men take sannyas to become liberated, because of their imperfections, they again become attached to women, materialistic activities, social welfare work, and so on. Jnanis, yogis, and karamis, devoid of devotional service, are called offenders. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Mayavadi Krishna Aparadi. One who thinks that everything is Maya, instead of thinking that everything is Krishna, is called an aparadi, or an offender. Although the Mayavadi impersonalists are offenders at the lotus feet of Krishna, they may nonetheless be counted among the siddhas, those who have realized the self. They may be considered nearer to spiritual perfection, because at least they have realized what spiritual life is. If such a person becomes Narayana, Parayana, a devotee of Lord Narayan, he is better than a Jivan Mukta, one who is liberated or perfect. This requires higher intelligence. There are two kinds of jnanis. One is inclined to devotional service, and the other to impersonal realization. Impersonalists generally undergo great endeavor for no tangible benefit, and therefore it is said that they are husking paddy that has no grain. Stula tusavagatina. The other class of jnanis, whose jnana is mixed with bhakti, are also of two kinds. Those who are devoted to the so-called false form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and those who understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, the actual spiritual form. The Mayavadi devotees worship Narayan or Vishnu with the idea that Vishnu has accepted a form of Maya and that the ultimate truth is actually impersonal. The pure devotee, however, never thinks that Vishnu has accepted a body of Maya. Instead, he knows perfectly well that the original absolute truth is the Supreme Person. Such a devotee is actually situated in knowledge. He never merges in the impersonal Brahman effulgence. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yenye Ravindakshiva Muktam Ananas Tvayasta Bhava Tapashuddha Buddhaya aruya krishchena param param tatha pakyantyato nadrita yushmarangraya. O Lord, the intelligence of those who think themselves liberated, but who have no devotion, is impure. Even though they rise to the highest point of liberation by dint of severe penances and austerities, they are sure to fall down again into material existence, for they do not take shelter at your lotus feet. Evidence of the same point is also given in Bhagavad Gita 9:11, wherein the Lord says, Avajananti ma mudha manusim tanamashritam param bhavam ajananto mamabhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. When rascals, mudhas, see that Krishna acts exactly like a human being, they deride the transcendental form of the Lord because they do not know the param bhavam, his transcendental form and activities. Such persons are further described in Bhagavad Gita 9:12 as follows. Mogasha moga karmano moga jnana vichetasha rakshashim asurim chaiva prakriti mohinim srita. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. Such persons do not know that Krishna's body is not material. There is no distinction between Krishna's body and his soul. But because less intelligent men see Krishna as a human being, they deride him. They cannot imagine how a person like Krishna could be the origin of everything. Govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Such persons are described as mogasha, baffled in their hopes. Whatever they desire for the future will be baffled. Even if they apparently engage in devotional service, they are described as mogasha because they ultimately desire to merge into the Brahman effulgence. Those who aspire to be elevated to the heavenly planets by devotional service will also be frustrated because this is not the result of devotional service. However, they are also given a chance to engage in devotional service and be purified. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punjasravana Kirtana Hridyantastohya Bhadrani Vedunoti Suhritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Unless the dirt within the core of one's heart is cleansed away, one cannot become a pure devotee. Therefore the word sudurlabha, very rarely found, is used in this verse. Not only among hundreds and thousands, but among millions of perfectly liberated souls, a pure devotee is hardly ever found. Therefore the words kotishva pi are used herein. Srila Madhvacharya gives the following quotations from the Tantra Bhagavat. Navakotyas tu devanam rishya sapta kotaya narayanayana sarve ye kechit tat parayana. There are 90 million demigods and 70 million sages who are all called Narayanaya, devotees of Lord Narayan. Among them, only a few are called Narayana Parayana. Narayananyana Deva Rishyadhyasthat Parayana Pramadya Kechanaiva Shu Siddho Yogya Sukham Labhan. The difference between the Siddhas and the Narayan Parayanas is that direct devotees are called Narayan Parayan because whereas those persons, the difference between the Siddhas and the Narayana Parayanas is that direct devotees are called Narayana Parayanas, whereas those who perform different types of mystic yoga are called Siddhas. O great sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of liberation, one may be a devotee of Lord Narayan or Krishna. Such devotees who are fully peaceful are extremely rare. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 14, entitled King Chitraketu's Lamentation. Text number 5. In the previous chapters, Shukadeva Goswami narrated the story of Vritrasura, who was the leader amongst the whole race of demons, who were the arch enemies of the demigods, the rishis, and the sages. How Vritrasura literally terrorized the universe. He gave such strength and enthusiasm to the entire Asuric race that they conquered the demigods. We read about all the devatas because of their exceptionally high and pious karma. They're very beautiful in every way. Their bodies are primarily constituted of the sattva guna, the mode of goodness. Very pleasing. Even if they may have forms that are quite extraordinary. Ganapati has head of elephant. But yet, he's millions of times more beautiful than any human being. This is the devatas. Very beautiful. Whereas the asuras, their bodies are mainly constituted of tamaguna and rajaguna. Because according to one's consciousness, one comes under a particular combination of the modes of material nature, and everything about that person is a product of the influences of those modes of nature. People who are actually trained and who have, due to their karma, certain psychic abilities, just by seeing someone, they can understand so much about that person. So the demons, very rarely are they beautiful. And Vritrasura especially, at least by our eyes. By their eyes, they're very beautiful. Vritrasura was horrible to see. He was massive. He was trampling on the demigods. He was roaring like a monster. And he was the enemy, the number one enemy of Indra. And all the sages, they were all praying for Indra's victory. Parikshit Maharaj was astounded. How is it that at the heat of the battle, at the crossroads of the most critical time of his life between survival and death, Vritrasura completely took shelter of Lord Narayan? Not only that, but he spoke divine philosophy to Indra. In fact, in the dialogue between Indra and Vritrasura, it's obvious to anyone who hears it that Indra was a neophyte compared to Vritrasura. And Indra is a very advanced devotee. But he appeared very materialistic, attached, fearful, and trying to make his own arrangements in this difficult situation. Whereas Vritrasura was totally detached. He knew completely he was not the doer. He was totally surrendered to Krishna and willing to accept whatever Krishna wanted. Maro birako bijo ichatohar nityadasa pratitua adhikar. He was living example of what Bhaktivinoda Thakur was saying. My Lord, if you want to kill me, I'm ready. I'm your property. If you want to protect me, what do I have to fear? I am yours. I'm your servant eternally. Vritrasura, at the most critical, difficult time, exhibited the most exalted qualities of a Paramhamsa. Sometimes when things are easy, palatable, under our control, we can appear very saintly. But when we're really under the pressure and things are totally out of our control, then sometimes it's seen by ourselves and maybe by others that you really do think you're the controller. You really do have a big false ego. You really are taking shelter of materialistic illusions, fallible soldiers. The time of death is the ultimate crisis. That is when we're really tested. What have we learned in life? Who we really are. And you can't fool people. You can fool people even at the time of death. If you're really into it, you can just, I'm just completely taking shelter of Krishna, and like that. But it doesn't matter what people think, because at the time of death, they're gone. The only person that's there to help you in any way, shape, or form at the actual time of death is the Paramatma in your heart. And he sees how serious you really are. What is the substance of your surrender? Well, Vritrasura, before, during, and after that crisis, he manifested the qualities of a Paramhamsa. This was astounding to Parikshit Maharaj. It may not be so astounding to all of you, because you read it before, or you heard it before, or maybe we're just too dull to get it. But Parikshit Maharaj is a very learned, cultured man. This is extraordinary. How is it? Where do we find this? We find demons being liberated by Krishna. But in the process of being killed, they're purified. But demons who are preaching Bhagavad Dharma with the same accuracy and realization as great sages like Prahlad? How is this possible? And not only speaking it, living it. Shukadev Goswami explained the story, and herein Parikshit is spellbound, astonished. How is this possible? Pure devotional service is so rare. Even yogis, karma yogis, jnana yogis, astanga yogis, they practice severe austerities, scrutinizingly studying the scriptures, discriminating between matter and spirit, performing ritualistic sacrifices, giving in charity, renouncing everything of this world, sometimes for thousands and thousands of births. And such great sages and rishis, hardly a one of them ever attains pure devotional service. How is it? This demon, he didn't even do any sadhana. Bhagavatam shows. We find from his very birth, he comes out of the fire, right? And he just immediately just goes right into fighting with the demons. He wasn't going to satsangs. He wasn't going to Bhagavad Kathas. Doesn't talk about him joining Nam Sankirtan parties. How? How could such a demon as this be more exalted spiritually than practically all of the most pious, religious, and austere sages? He achieved what is so rare. And herein, in this extraordinary state of being blasted with excitement to understand what's going on here, Parikshit Maharaj is speaking this historical verse that has been quoted millions of times by the great acharyas of the Vaishnava Sampradayas. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sudurlabha prasantatma koteshvapi mahamune. Everyone wants peace. But here it is explained that there's only one person who really knows what peace is. Even out of millions and trillions of persons who strive for liberation, even of millions of trillions of persons who have attained liberation, even of millions of trillions of persons who strive to attain mystic powers, cities, and in millions and trillions of persons who have attained those mystic cities, none of them are really peaceful. Only that one person who has surrendered to Lord Narayan is really peaceful. Why? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he begins his Leela where Srimad Bhagavatam culminates. When he speaks to Sanatana Goswami, first principle he establishes is the constitutional nature of the soul. Jivara Swarupoy Krishnara Nityadas. Our eternal identity is we are the servants of Krishna. Any other situation that we achieve is artificial and temporary. It's not really who we are. Devotee is peaceful because the devotee is in his or her eternal position. And why? Why is pure devotional service so rare? The word used herein is sudurlabham, exceptionally rare. Srila Rupa Goswami explains why, very comprehensively in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He describes therein there are 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. The first, kleshagni, is it relieves all one's material distress. Distress is due to reactions of sinful activities. By performing certain prayaschita, or atonements, one may be able to counteract to some degree the prarabdha, or the sinful reactions that we are currently suffering. But there are aprarabdha results of papam or sin. In subtle forms that are unmanifested, unseen. We don't even know that they're there. When you commit sinful activities, there is kutam. It aggravates our consciousness to have a greater inclination to those sinful activities. It aggravates our desire for sense gratification and our willingness to engage in sins to fulfill it. That inclination manifests as bijam, sinful desires, specific desires, and that drives us again to commit the sins. And then the whole cycle just goes on, birth after birth after birth. Arjuna asks Krishna in Gita, what is it, Krishna? Even a person knows something is wrong and he's going to suffer for it and it's sinful. Why? Why does he still do it anyway? What is that power? What is that force that impels a person to know to do something that's wrong and will force him to suffer? Kama esha, krodha esha, rajogunu shamadbhava. Mahashano mahapapma vijyanam iha vairanam. It is lust only, Arjuna, which is later transformed into wrath, which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. This inclination and the specific desires that come from this inclination are due to the reactions of our past sinful karmas. And the horrible thing in this world is that as we're getting the reactions, we try to somehow or other alleviate that problem through the process of committing other sinful activities. If you just let the fire go out, then someday it will go out. But as the fire blazes, we feel the need to keep putting more and more and more fuel into it. And it gets hungry and hungry, higher and higher, bigger and bigger, perpetually. But pure devotional service is so powerful that not only does it mitigate the sins that we are suffering now, but it also mitigates the desire and the inclination for sinful activity within our hearts. Srila Prabhupada uses an example, just like a seed. If you fry a seed, it no longer has the capacity to sprout. Pure devotional service fries the seeds of material sinful inclinations within our hearts. And therefore, it is the only process that really permanently relieves all distress. Now, some devotees may be thinking, I'm practicing the process of pure devotional service, but still, there's seeds, and there's inclinations, kutam, bijam, all of these things are very much alive in my heart, alive and well, and they're sprouting all over the place, and they're dictating, howling and screaming for me to engage in serving my sinful inclinations. But the process of devotional service is, in sadhana bhakti, tapasya. Tapovidivyam putraka yena sattvam. We have to somehow or other restrain and control our senses from these previous results of our past bad karmas. And we must, as an alternative, immerse our consciousness in devotional activities. Arjuna says in Gita, Yatato hyapi konteya purushasya vipaschita indriyani pramatini haranti prashabam mana. The senses are so strong and impetuous that they forcibly carry away even the mind of a man of a discrimination who is trying to control them. But then he gives the solution. Thani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara vasehi asyantriyani tasya pragya pratishtata. One must simultaneously restrain the mind and the senses from what is unfavorable for pure devotional service. And simultaneously one must absorb one's consciousness in Krishna. Fix one's consciousness in Krishna. That is the path. Now, in this age of Kali, there are so many very, very popular religious or spiritual movements that attract millions and tens and millions of followers, that teach, do this meditation, do this breath control, give this donations, offer these prayers. You don't have to change your life. You don't have to restrain your senses. Because after all, restraining one's senses is artificial. You feel like it, you should do it. What is this? Who's anyone to tell you not to do what you want to do? Be all that you can be. Yes? And when we hear that from authorities, it's very nice. It's a good justification. Of course, sometimes they want us to do it in a pious way. Don't hurt others, but enjoy. Yes? Unfortunately, through this process, we are, even in the name of Bhagavad Gita, which often they quote, there's a contradiction to what Krishna is speaking in Gita. Tani saravani samyamya. We must control our senses. Vasehi asyandriyani. Indriyanam icharatam yanmano navatiyate tarasya harati pragya vayornavam ivambashi. As a boat on the water is swept away by a strong wind, even one of the senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. When Krishna is describing the process of Astanga Yoga, he said, there's no question of yoga without control of the mind and senses. So it is difficult. But without it, there's no possibility of pure devotional service. If you want a better life, a little more pious life, a little more peace, then that stuff works. Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistrigunya Bhavarjana, Nirdvanvo Nitya Shatvosto, Nirogakshema Atmavan. Krishna says he kicks it out. We don't want this. The Vedas talk about all this. Living a little better life, a little more pious, better enjoyment, more peace. Be established in the self, Arjuna. Ragad Vaishava Muktaishtu Vishayanandriyaishcharanatma Vishayavat Heyatma Prasadamadigatchati. By following the regulative principles of freedom, one becomes free from attachment and aversion and achieves the goal of spiritual consciousness. So yes, the seeds of desires may still be there in our hearts. But by chanting God's names and simultaneously following these regulative principles, gradually, by the mercy of Krishna, we can overcome them. We can be free. But Krishna tells in Gita, constant practice and determination are required. Because this pure devotional service, sudurlabha, is very rarely given, there is a price to pay. It is an exceptionally small price compared to what you're getting, but there is a price. Some austerity. But Srila Prabhupada explains if we're actually practicing bhakti properly, even those austerities are fun. One's happy. Srila Prabhupada would tell people, look at these young boys and girls from America and Europe. They were doing all the wrong things, completely wild, uncontrolled minds and senses. And here they're totally controlling their minds and senses. The only sense gratification they get is some prasad. Yes, as far as sensual. Otherwise, they're restricting. The Prabhupada said, but that so many people are coming saying, what happened to this person? He looks so happy now. She looks so blissful now. Their faces are bright and light. Because they were tasting something sweeter. Vishayabani vartante niraharasya dehina rasavarajam rasopyasya param drispani vartate. It's difficult to control the mind and senses. But if one experiences something higher, then it can be done. So what happens? Why? Sometimes devotees, they're blissful following Krishna consciousness, and then after some years, they become morose. Again, the mind and senses become wild, frustrated. Sometimes they're driven to sinful activities, materialistic activities. Sometimes devotees aren't really happy. If you're just restraining your senses, but you're not really taking shelter of the process, then it's very difficult to continue controlling your senses. And not only that, it could be quite miserable. We have to take shelter of the process. Nam Sankirtan, Vaishnav Seva, Bhagavad Katha, worshipping the deities, going to holy places, offering prayers, doing our japa. If we're actually putting our mind and senses attentively on these processes of devotional service, we get Krishna. We start to taste Krishna. And then even the trials and tribulations of trying to be a good devotee bring inner fulfillment and joy. It's a higher taste. So if we're not happy in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said, it means we're really not following the process attentively and sincerely. Because a devotee who's following properly and sincerely with the proper attitude, with a proper service attitude, not offending others. Because if you're offending others, you're not following the process. Hare Krishna. What happens is, we don't follow, and then we start losing faith. What's happening? So we should know that if we do follow Krishna consciousness nicely, the process of pure devotional service, Krishna will protect us. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupashate tesha nityabhayoktanam yogakshemam bahamyam. Krishna will protect what we have. He will provide what we lack. But we have to sincerely and honestly surrender. Therefore, pure devotional service, one of its great characteristics is it relieves all material distress. So, second quality is it is Chawpatty. It is the beginning of all auspiciousness. Rupa Goswami tells that what is really auspicious is what is for the ultimate welfare for all living beings. That is auspicious. We talk about auspicious. We say that, the stars are auspicious today. Or a cow passes on your right side, and we say this is inauspicious. This is auspicious. Or a black cat crosses your trail. This is inauspicious. But those activities that are actually for the welfare, that invigorate and nourish everyone, those activities are all auspicious. And that is pure devotional service. Because pure devotional service waters the seed of love of God within the hearts. Therefore, it's for the ultimate welfare of everyone. When the sages of Naimisharanya asked questions about the goal of life, why people are suffering, how to overcome these sufferings, what's happening in this coming age of Kali. Sutta Goswami was blissful. Munaya saduprishtoham bhavadbir lokamangalam yatkarita Krishna samprasno yenatmasu prasidati. That your questions are glorious. They are all auspicious. Why? Because they are meant, the answers to your questions are meant for the ultimate welfare of all living beings. Why? Because it is the subject matter of Krishna, the supreme goal of everyone's life. There's a beautiful sloka in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yas yasti bhaktir bhagavati yakinshana sarvai gunais tatra samasate sura. Harava bhaktas yukato mahadguna manorathe nasati dhavato bahi. That by practicing devotional service, all good qualities are manifested. All the qualities of the sages, the rishis, the demigods, and even the Lord are manifest through one who practices pure devotional service to the Lord. But whatever apparent good qualities are in others are temporary, because they're not founded within the soul. The good qualities that people have in the mode of goodness, those good qualities, their foundation is in the mind. And everyone knows the nature of the mind. It's like if you put if your foundation is sand, You may build a very nice structure on that sand, but it's just a matter of time till everything falls. So the good qualities of those who are materially pious, or even those who are spiritually advanced without surrendering to the lotus feet of the Lord, the foundation of their good qualities is the mental platform. Therefore, there is no permanence. A strong wind can change everything. But yes, yasti bhaktira bhagavatiya kenchana sarvai gunaistatra samasate. But if we surrender to Krishna, the true nature of the soul awakens within our heart. The soul is part of Krishna. The soul is Satchidananda, and it is qualitatively one with Krishna, although in small quantity. Therefore, the qualities of a really great devotee who is truly surrendered to Krishna are permanent. They're glorious. Therefore, the path of devotional service is like watering the root of a tree. You fulfill all the goals of all other spiritual paths if you just surrender to Krishna. And that is Krishna's lesson. His conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishamimasucha. Abandon all varieties of religious activities. You don't have to do all these rituals. You don't have to do all these prayashchitas. You don't have to do all these meditations. You can do for your health and all these other things. But for your real salvation, all you have to do is surrender to me. I shall personally deliver you from all sinful reactions. And that is why it is so important that we hear the histories of these great devotees throughout. Because they manifest qualities that even the demigods adore, that even the great sages and rishis adore. Look at Ambarish Maharaj. The demigods were glorifying him. Durvas Muni ended up surrendering to him. All auspicious. That is the characteristic of pure devotional service. And how is it that devotees have such good qualities? Because by associating with Krishna, Krishna manifests through the devotee's heart. And Krishna is all attractive. Sandrananda Visheshatma. That through pure devotional service, one can achieve an indescribable standard of happiness. Condensed, concentrated ecstasies. Because it is the nature of the soul. It is actually the nature of the soul. Paramdraslani vartate. Krishna has made us as seekers of bliss. But in the foreign land of material existence, we're just looking in the wrong places. The 5th canto, there is the chapter called Forest of Material Enjoyment, which is very graphically describing what happens when an animal in this forest of material enjoyment is seeking pleasure. How many implications, how many complications, how many tragedies. It is explained that in the desert, one is so hungry for water, thirsty, that they start imagining with their minds water. It's called a mirage. And they're running toward that mirage, struggling. Every ounce of their energy, they're trying to reach it. With such great hope that they'll find relief and pleasure. But all they get is a mouthful of hot, dry sand. Hare Krishna. even if a little bit of sand is mixed in your sweet rice, kheer, it's miserable. But put the sweet rice aside and drink a whole bowl of hot, dry sand. That is material life. It only increases. The Krishna consciousness gives us the real happiness that we're all searching for. Why? Because we're all searching for love. The love we're searching for is in Krishna. And pure devotional service is sudurlabha. It is extremely rare to achieve it. And why is that? For two primary reasons. One, you can't attain it. No matter what you do, you can never attain pure devotional service. You can attain elevation to heavens. You can attain massive prosperity and pleasure within this material earth planet. You can attain mukti, liberation. But you can never attain pure devotional service. It is the property of Krishna. When Krishna gives it to you by his own sweet will, only then can you experience it. And Krishna gives it through his devotees. Prahlad Maharaj, he tells his father, Matirna Krishne paratasvatova mitope pedete grihavratanam adandago birvashatam tamishram puna punascharapata charavananam. My dear father, you cannot attain pure devotional service, either by your own efforts, by the help of others, or by a combination of both. It's just not possible. Therefore, you continue in this material existence just chewing that which has already been chewed in the form of material enjoyment. But if you want to attain pure devotional service, there's only one way. Naisham matis tavarurukramangring sprashatyanartha pagamo yadartha. Mahiya sampadarajo vishekam niskinchananam navriti yavat. We learn this from Govinda Prabhu. He spoke with great conviction. That unless one smears the dust of the feet of a devotee who has no interest in material enjoyment on all limbs of the body, performing an abhishek on oneself with the dust from the feet of the great souls who have taken shelter of Krishna, nobody can attain Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness only comes through causeless mercy. The mercy of Krishna and the mercy of Krishna's devotees. And why does Krishna not give it so easily? Because he is controlled by the love of his devotee. So many examples. Pandavas. When Narada Muni was speaking to Yudhisthira Maharaj, Yudhisthira Maharaj was glorifying Prahlad in the 7th canto. That after hearing the story of Prahlad Maharaj, Yudhisthira Maharaj considered, he is so great, I have nothing. My devotional service is of no value whatsoever. And Srila Prabhupada explains in this regard, this is the nature of a devotee. A devotee never thinks him or herself great. A devotee takes pleasure in seeing the greatness of others. A devotee, when he hears about the devotional service of others, thinks, this devotee is so dear to Krishna. This devotee is so advanced. This devotee is so empowered, so wonderful, and I am nothing compared. How is it? So Yudhisthira Maharaj, he's not depressed about it. He's ecstatic about it. It's not like he's envious of Prahlad, saying, Prahlad's so great and I'm nothing, but I want to become better than Prahlad. He wasn't like that. He was blissful. You can't really appreciate the qualities of another as long as you're focusing on yourself. You can't really appreciate another devotee's qualities as long as you're hung up in your own, in who you are and what you are. But if you follow in the footsteps of Yudhisthira Maharaj, which Prabhupada says all great devotees are like, and you think I'm nothing, they're all better than me, then you could really, really appreciate and understand the great qualities of other Vaishnavas. So Yudhisthira Maharaj is saying like this. He's not depressed, but he's just very humble. That I'm nothing. Look at Prahlad. He's so surrendered, so wonderful. I'm nothing. And Narada Muni says, you're nothing? Krishna lives in your house? You worship Krishna as the Lord and Master of your life, and how is Krishna reciprocating? He's your friend. He's your relative. He's your messenger. You're sending Krishna on missions, and he's obediently following whatever you want. You are controlling Krishna. That is the power of your devotional service. And that is a fact. When Krishna gives devotional service, pure devotional service, he knows that he's going to come under the control of that devotee. So he doesn't give it very freely to anyone. It is sudurlabha, very rare. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sudurlabha prasantatma koteshvapi mahamune. Out of hundreds, millions and trillions, it is explained here, of yogis who attain siddhas, of jnanis who attain mukti, it's very rare that Krishna will give pure devotional service, because he comes under the control of that devotee. And moksha lagutakrita. That devotional service derives even the happiness of liberation. Prahlad Maharaj in Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, he praised the Lord Nrsimha Dev that those persons who have attained, the yogis who have attained mystic powers, the jnanis who have attained mukti, in the Brahman realization, the happiness they are achieving is compared like the water contained in a calf's hoof print compared to the vast ocean of the happiness derived from pure devotional service. Rupa Goswami explains trillions and trillions of times greater, even than impersonal liberation, is the happiness of loving Krishna, of seeing Krishna, of knowing Krishna, and especially of serving Krishna. It is the ultimate aspiration of every soul. Therefore, anyabhilashita sunyam jnana karamanyanavitam anukulena krishnanushilanam bhaktaruttama. If you want pure devotional service, you have to get rid of all desires for mystic powers, liberation, or material enjoyment. Our desire that we're cultivating, we may have so many desires, but what we're cultivating is the desire simply to satisfy Krishna, to please Krishna, and to love Krishna in a favorable way. It is so beautiful. and Krishna Karashani. This is the sixth characteristic of devotional service. We have mentioned it, that pure devotional service attracts Krishna. And how is this? Because pure devotional service is manifesting from the pleasure potency, the Hladini Shakti of the Lord. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains the essence of Hladini Shakti is prem, love of God. The Hladini Shakti of the Lord is the energy of Srimati Radharani. Devotional service is under the control, under the supervision of Srimati Radharani. Krishna is all attractive. He is Madan Mohan. Even Cupid, who attracts and bewilders the minds of everyone in this world, is attracted by Krishna. Actually, in Vrindavan, Bhaktivedanta Hospital is building a hospice for devotees from all over the world who have given their hearts and souls to Srila Prabhupada's mission, who are approaching that inevitable state of giving up this body. And there'll be a beautiful facility where they'll be surrounded by the devotees in the supreme abode of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Kirtan, Katha, prayers, they can give up their bodies with all nice, professional, trained hospice caretakers, seeing to the physical needs, mental needs, and spiritual needs of each devotee. Now, this hospice is just near a place called Madantir. In our yatras, we often pass that place and tell the story. That Kamadev, he came to test who is this Krishna. And he was near this tree when he saw Krishna. And he took that bow and arrow. And when Kamadev, we don't see those arrows, but they're flying all over the place. Powerful things are often subtle. Many things you don't see are affecting you. Yes? Let's say air. You don't see air. When there's a tornado or a cyclone, do you see the wind? You see what the wind is doing, but you don't see the wind. You see trees falling down and leaves falling all over the place, and you see dust throughout the air, and you see houses collapsing, and you see people flying like pieces of straw in all directions. That's what happens in a cyclone. You see the symptoms, but you don't see what's doing it. It's amazing, isn't it? Something gross, like if somebody puts their fist in your face, you see it coming. But a cyclone, you don't see anything. It's just air. But how powerful it is. So don't be fooled by thinking you have to see something to see its power, to understand that it's working. Well, far subtler than this element is Kamadev's arrows. When he pierces your heart, you don't hear the bow, you don't see the arrow, but it lodges in your heart and it creates havoc in your life. Yes? But of course, modern civilization, they just want more and more arrows. It's not that they're happy about it, but they're just, they want more and more and more desires. The more desires, the more I could try to fulfill the desires. The more desires, the more pleasure I have when I engage in the activities that fulfill those desires. But it's a never-ending cycle. Krishna says in Gita, it's like putting fuel in fire. Hare Krishna. So Kamadev, he directly, for most people in this world, he's not directly. He's just got arrows flying all over by his energy. But he was directly aiming his arrow at Krishna. But when he saw Krishna's beautiful threefold bending form, eyes like fully bloomed lotus petals. Beautiful, beautiful nose like a sesame flower, and lips like freshly cut bimba fruits. Haribol. Complexion like a monsoon cloud. Every limb so perfectly attractive. Standing with those 3 bends in his body, playing his flute. His dhoti, his lower cloth was brilliant like lightning. Kaustubhamani and other wonderful, wonderful divine jewels hanging from his neck, which is swirled like with lines like a conch shell. And the beautiful forest garland, Vanamali, of wild, fragrant flowers from desire trees, going beneath his knees, his lotus feet in the palms of his hand, pinkish, like a pink lotus flower, and pearls decorating his hair, along with peacock feather. When he saw that form, Kamadev was so attracted that he fell unconscious. Finished. That is the power of Krishna. Therefore he is Madan Mohan. He attracts even Madana. He bewilders even Madana. The person who bewilders the whole world is bewildered by Krishna. Madan Mohan. Srimati Radharani, she attracts Krishna. Kaviraj Goswami explains it so nicely. How Krishna, he's completely infatuated by the love of Srimati Radharani. Her love is so pure. When Srimati Radharani, in order to increase Krishna's pleasure, decides not to speak to him and feigns a mood of man or anger, and Krishna becomes like a beggar. Gaur Govinda Maharaj called Prem Bhikari, begging for Radha's love. I cannot live without it. Now, this is the most extraordinary of all truths. You will never find any truth higher than this. Krishna tells who he is in Gita. Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvalokamaheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatvam shantimishchati. All sacrifices are only meant for me. I am the controller and the proprietor of all the worlds. Everything. Sarvadharaman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. All spiritual and material worlds emanate from Krishna. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. The whole material existence and its energy is working under my control. Krishna is the proprietor of everything that exists. Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashashashraya jnana vairagyayashchaiva sanam bhaga itingana. Krishna has all 6 opulences. Aishwarya means he owns everything. There's nothing that Krishna doesn't own. He owns you and everything you have. And knowledge means to just accept, Krishna, you are the proprietor, you are the enjoyer, I am the servant. Yes? So Krishna is the supreme proprietor of everything. And he's becoming a beggar. How many people can you see somebody who's a multi-billionaire begging? Yes, usually they do, at home. Because they have no control of their children. They usually don't have control of their wife, begging, please, give me some peace, please. Give me a break. That means they don't have control over people. Yes. But Krishna has supreme control over everything, but he's a beggar. Because the love of Srimati Radharani, by his own will, he is controlled by that love. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when Krishna's in Dwarka, he's revealing his heart to the devotees. Narada Muni, Uddhav, and others. Why I'm not going back to Vrindavan? Actually, the whole time I'm here in Dwarka, I'm only thinking of Vrindavan. He tells Satyabhama, the only reason I married you is because you remind me, because in my separation of the gopis, you remind me of the gopis. It's quite an honest thing to say to your wife. Such a high truth. No, how could you, if your husband told you, oh, best of illustrious, chaste, and noble ladies, the only reason I married you is because you remind me of another woman I love. But Satyabhama was in ecstasy when Krishna told her this, because this is completely transcendental. Krishna is saying during the Ratha Yatra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of Radharani, and Jagannath was in the mood of Krishna, and the conversation. Amazing. So beautiful. Krishna's telling Radharani and Kurukshetra and gopis, ever since I left Vrindavan, I'm crying day and night in separation from you. I can't live without you. In fact, I know you can't live without me. Therefore, I worship Narayan, and by his mercy, every day, invisibly, I come to Vrindavan and perform pastimes with you, just to keep you alive. And Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisovanayaiva. Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that Krishna comes in the mood of Radharani just to taste the sweetness of her love. This is the supreme truth, which is the very basis of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. That Radharani's love controls Krishna. And devotional service means to put yourself under the shelter of Srimati Radharani. And Prabhupada cites from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Mahatmanastu mam parata daivim prakriti mashata bhajantyananya manasho gyatva bhuta dimabhyayam. What is a Mahatma? According to Gita, a Mahatma is one who is under the shelter of the internal potency of the Lord, and thus engages all one's mind, senses, and everything in worshiping the Lord. Now, what is that internal potency? The internal potency is Srimati Radharani. Mahatmanastu mam parata daivim prakritim ashrata. This means a real Mahatma is one who takes shelter of the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. And under her shelter, assists in the process of devotional service. And because Radharani controls Krishna, if we come under the shelter of Radharani and are imbued by her mercy, our devotional service can also control Krishna. So therefore, Krishna only gives pure devotional service. Very rarely. Sudurlava. Manushyanam sahasreshu kashchit yatati siddhaya yatanam api siddhanam kashchin mam veti tattvata. Out of thousands of people who approach me, hardly one knows me in truth. And we find in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela how, as Lord Chaitanya, Radharani and Krishna are giving this Sudurlabha, this most rare gift to achieve, freely to the people of this world, like never before. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaudatveshe Namaha. Lord Chaitanya is the most magnificent, the most munificent, the most merciful of any other form of God, of any other incarnation, because he's doing what nobody else has done, given this most precious jewel of pure devotional service without even considering anyone's qualifications or disqualifications. It doesn't matter what your past, what your present, just accept it. People strive for many, many, many lifetimes for mystic powers. Anima, to become very small. Mahima, to become very big. Lagima, to actually enter into the sun planet by riding on the sun rays. Prapti, acquisition, can actually acquire things that are very difficult to acquire from even distant places. Ishita, the power to create and destroy even planets. Vishita, the power to control other people, control their minds, control their lives. It's quite attractive. Prakamya, the ability to do magic within the scope of material nature. And Kamavashayata, to perform such impossible, inconceivable magic that you have the power to contradict material nature and how it works. These are the 8 mystic cities. How many of you would like those cities? You could do a lot. Really. You could do a lot. But Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana. In this verse, you can get so many things. You can get planets. You can get tremendous wealth. You can get power over others. It's due to these 8 mystic cities that Hiranyakashipu conquered the whole universe. Now, what if you're pious and you have those things? How many good things can you do for the world? It's very attractive. People spend lifetimes trying to get those cities through the yogic practices. If we have any inclination toward any of those mystic cities, you may get the cities, but you'll never get Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. And if you have any inclination for freedom from suffering and moksha, cannot get Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give this. He gave that story of Sarvagya, the astrologer. Yes? He told the poor man, he said, "You're looking for treasure?" He said, "In one direction, there is a big snake. If you dig there, you will be devoured by the snake. In another direction, there's bees and wasps that will sting you and bite you. In another direction, there's a yaksha who's going to haunt you and harass you. But if you dig in the eastern direction, you will find the treasure." So the process of karma kanda. We may, even if we get through piety, the rituals, through yajnas, through charities, we can get elevation to very, very high standards of enjoyment in this world or higher planets. But Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartanojana, they're all from Brahma Loka to Patala Loka, they're places of misery. It's temporary. That's why in the scriptures we find Indra facing so many problems. Yes? In the Srimad Bhagavatam, which in other scriptures it only talks about Indra's enjoyments. But Srimad Bhagavatam mainly talks about Indra's problems. Yes? In other Puranas, in Vedas, you find just Indra's just doing yajnas and enjoying and wealthy and happy and everything else. But Bhagavatam is to teach us something higher, so it focuses on the reality of these aspects. Because even if you're Indra, still, so many problems. So many bees will sting you. And as far as mystic siddhis, even if you have them all, it usually inflates your false ego. They're all material skills. Ignorant people think that mystic siddhis are spiritual powers. Actually, they're simply highly refined material powers. Technology today, show it to someone from 200 years ago, and they'll think you're a mystic yogi. Yes? Just like if some villager from Maharashtra in the year 1210, and Govinda happens to go back in time, Govinda Prabhu, and he's sitting there, and all of a sudden his cell phone rings. There's all of a sudden this do-do-do-do-do-do-do coming from his pocket. What would those people from 1210 say? Your clothes are singing. Singing clothes. Right? And then he takes out this little thing, and they never saw anything like this. Plastic didn't exist in those days. What to speak of all these. And then he starts, talking. And, here, you want to talk? The person, there's a voice coming out of this. He has a little box that talks. His clothes are talking. His box is talking. I'm sure that village in Maharashtra would build a temple and put his deity in it and worship. And worship him as God, right? Because they've never seen anything like this. What to speak if he takes out his laptop computer? Starts showing those villagers of 1210 all the features of his new computer. It's impossible. So for a mystic yogi, he just knows how to manipulate the subtle elements of material nature to be able to do amazing things. It's miraculous to you because you don't know how to do it. In Siddhaloka, everyone knows how to do it. They don't consider this as a great enlightened being because he knows. He just does everything everybody else is doing. Yes? But because in this earth planet, in this age of Kali, such mystic powers are rare to see. It's very attractive. But a devotee is not impressed by these things. Neither is he or she impressed, nor does he or she desire these things. Sanatana Goswami, he had a touchstone. Had it in the rubbish bin. The person who wanted wealth, he was performing tapasya for years and years and years to get one of these. And Sanatana Goswami had it in a rubbish bin. And Sanatana Goswami gave it to him, and it worked. Chanting mantra, touching certain types of bell metal and everything, it turns into gold. Unbelievable. Why do you keep it in the rubbish? You must have something even better than this. That's the nature of material acquisition. The more you have, the more you need. Yes. You get some, if you don't have anything, you want something. If you want something, once you get it, then you see somebody has something better. I have to have that. Isn't that the way children are? Then they see somebody who has something better than that. I have to have that. It's endless. You must have something better. I can turn anything into gold, but if you have something better, I have to have that. You're never satisfied. Sanatana Goswami said, I do have something better. Give it to me, please. I'll do anything for you. Give it to me. Okay, you'll do anything for me? Yes. Throw the touchstone in Yamuna. Gone forever. Then I'll give you something better. Sanatana Goswami, by his association, this man had faith. That's the power of the association of devotees. Imagine Srila Prabhupada. What a touchstone he was. He goes to a place where people are addicted to so many sinful activities, and Prabhupada says, give them up. They had so much faith in him, they gave it up. Unbelievable. Illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, meat eating, gambling, what else? All of these things. It was their life. It was their enjoyment. It was their social activities. It was their everything. And Prabhupada says, give it up. It's like throwing a touchstone in the Yamuna. They had so much faith, they were willing to do it. It was a big leap of faith that I'll get something better. So that man threw touchstone in Yamuna. And Sanatana Goswami, now I will give you the supreme treasure. This touchstone will give you not just gold, it will give you prem, love of God. He told this man, raise your arms and loudly repeat after me. Very nice. You are all successful. Prabhupada said we have to learn to cry out for Krishna as a baby in a helpless condition cries out for its mother. Much louder, please. This gift which is so rare, greater than any material acquisition, greater than any mystic powers, and greater than even liberation, has been given to the world by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through this simple process of chanting God's holy names. Therefore, Mahaprabhu has taught, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. This chanting of the holy names is the prime benediction for all humanity. Kalera dosanide raja nasti heku mahan guna kirtana reva krishnasya mukta sangha param rajait. In this ocean of faults, Kali Yuga, this is the great benediction. That simply chanting Krishna's name and Nam Kirtan, one can attain the perfection of liberation. But Naishamati Stavarudukramangrim, we must simultaneously, in order to chant the name of the Lord in such a way that the Lord will reciprocate and give us this pure devotional service, we must take the dust of the feet of the Vaishnavas and make that our life and soul. Thakur Narottam said, the dust of the feet of the Goswamis is my food, my nourishment, my life. Dust means service, humble service. To put yourself in the dust means to totally humble yourself. Trinara pisunichena, taror ibasihesh, amani namana dena kirtaniya sada. Hari. This is what it means to take the dust. You have to humble yourself. To serve. Servant of the servant of the servant. The highest platform because it attracts the highest mercy from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vritrasura, he was on such a pure, liberated state of pure love of God. How did it happen? How could it be? That is Parikshit Maharaj's thought. Nobody gets this so easily. How could a demon have it? What did he do to get it? And in answer to this question, this chapter is going to unfold the mystery. How Maharaj Chitraketu, how in his life he had to go through so many joys and terrible tragedies and sorrows to bring him to the point of surrendering to the mercy of a great Vaishnava, Narada Muni. And through Narada Muni's grace, he understood the path of offering prayers of devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he surrendered. And even though he made a mistake by inadvertently, accidentally offending Goddess Parvati, he said something which in his heart was not with any malice. But Parvati interpreted it to be spoken with false ego. How can you speak this way about Shiva? How can you question our relationship? Hare Krishna. Become a demon. Go to hell and become a demon. What a test. He's just gone through hell with his son. It's such a beautiful story. He really went through hell. The thing that he longed to achieve more than anything in this world was a son. And then his own beloved co-wives murder the son. And he has nothing. He tried for years to get this. He tried for years and years and years with all of his powers to get it. Finally he got it, and it was gone forever. He was suffering so bad. This is the principle. To the degree you want something, you become attached to it when you get it. To the degree you're attached to it, you suffer when it's taken away, and everything's taken away. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. He suffered so bad. But that's what enabled him to really hear what Narada Muni and Ankira Muni were speaking. Previously, he heard the same message. He heard the same message. But, he believed it. But he didn't really get it until he was in desperation. Then he got it. And he surrendered wholesale to Krishna. And then after surrendering wholesale to Krishna, he's being misunderstood and he's being cursed to go to hell and be a demon. Is that what I came to Krishna consciousness for? After all the suffering and material existence, I surrender to Krishna, and it's supposed to be Sandrananda Vishesh Atma. It's supposed to be an ocean of indescribable condensed ecstasy. And here I am being cursed by Devi Parvati and being misunderstood by her. It's one thing to be misunderstood by demons or materialists, but Parvati is an expansion of Srimati Radharani.
She's the Lord Shakti. She's misunderstanding me. She's criticizing me. She's chastising me. She's cursing me. And all I did is, after surrendering everything and becoming a devotee, he didn't ask that question. He said, oh, it must be Krishna's arrangement. Whatever you're saying must be for my good. Otherwise you could not say it. Thank you very much. I actually didn't mean to offend your husband, but thank you very much for your mercy. That was his mood. And Lord Shiva, he was very happy. Yes, he has shown the world what is a devotee. Narayana parasarave nakutashtina bibyate swaragapavarga narakesu apitulyarta darshana. This is what a devotee of Narayan is about. Whether he's in hell or heaven or even liberated, doesn't matter. He's happy to serve anywhere. Kolavecha Sridhar was just a simple plantain seller, selling banana leaves, bananas, banana flowers, banana roots. So much in poverty. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered him every type of benediction. He offered him the wealth of Indra. I don't want it. And then he offered him something very irresistible. All the 8 mystic cities. The yogic perfections in full. I'll give them all to you. He wouldn't accept a single one of them. He rejected them. I'll give you mukti, liberation from all your sufferings. You're hungry, you're poor, I'll give you liberation. He rejected liberation. He didn't even want to go back to Godhead. He didn't want anything from the Lord. This was the mood of Prahlad also. There's Lord Narasimhadev offered Prahlad any benediction. Prahlad said, if I ask anything of you, I'm not a devotee. I'm a, Vanak? Yes? I'm a mercantile community person. That means I'm doing business with you. If I want any pay, any dividends for whatever I've done for you, I'm not a devotee. That's not love. That's business. Prahlad wanted, the only thing I want, let no material desires be in my heart, and let me always remember you with love. Kolavecha Sridhar was offered all benedictions, one by one. He rejected them all. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I want to give you something. Please, for me, ask something. Yes, my Lord. In the core of my heart, let me always remember that beautiful little Nimai Pandit coming to my shop to steal my bananas. Let me always remember you, never forget you. Muktanam api siddhanam. Narayana parayana. Sudurlabha prasantatma kotishupi mahamuni. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I give you pure devotional service. And when he gave that pure devotional service to Kolavecha Sridhar, all the devotees, with tears flowing from their eyes, raised their arms and cried out, Hari Bol. They all celebrated the ultimate perfection of life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu drank from the old, beaten-up iron pot of Kolavecha Sridhar. And when he drank it, he went into ecstasy and said, this is the first time in life I'm tasting pure devotional service. After experiencing the nectar of the water drunk by Kolavecha Sridhar. What does that mean? The Lord is controlled by his devotees. Sachimata said, go to Puri, don't live in Vrindavan. He went to Puri. The Lord is controlled by the love of his devotees.
So he will not give that love so easy. But yet, Lord Chaitanya is giving that love so easy. Some price is there. What was that Jayadvaita Maharaj said? Hard and fast rules. Yes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said there are no hard and fast rules for this chanting of the holy names of the Lord. But yet, for us, it seems like they're very hard and fast. You have to be more humble than a blade of grass, tolerant like a tree, and offer all respect to others, and expect none in return. That's quite hard and fast. And no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meeting. You're not supposed to blaspheme others. You're supposed to not disobey the order of the spiritual master. You're not supposed to equate the names of the demigods with Krishna. You can't blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures or pursuance of the Vedic version. You can't give mundane interpretations for the holy name of the Lord. You can't equate it to the karma kanda activities. You can't commit sinful activities on the strength of the chanting of the holy names. You can't preach the glories of the holy name to the faithless. And you can't even maintain material attachments while chanting the holy name. These sounds pretty hard and fast. Yes? Jayadvaita Maharaj said these regulations are soft and slow. They're not hard and fast. They're the minimum. Just to show that you're really serious. That's all. If you can't do these things, this is the way that you can express that you're really serious. To get such a benediction as even mystic powers or liberation, you have to do a lot more than this. Yes? And in previous ages, to get pure devotional service, you had to do unbelievable things. But in age of Kali, this is the minimal. Just to show that you really are serious. Because if you show that you really are serious by just following this process with the proper intentions and aspirations, Krishna comes under control. Most rare of all benedictions. So let us be grateful. Srila Prabhupada said, just give this one life to Krishna. And you go back home, back to God, even in this life. How wonderful. Troubles will be there. His Grace Braj Bihari Prabhu gave a seminar during his classes about Tatena Kampam Susamikshamano Punjana Evatma Kritam Vipagam Ridvagva Purvir Vitatam Namaste Jivetya Mukta Padesa Dayabak. That even while suffering different tribulations, we accept them as the mercy of the Lord with a grateful heart and carry on with our Krishna consciousness. If we're simply willing to do that, liberation is our rightful claim. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, upon hearing this verse, he said, this mukti sadaya bhak, I'm not liking this. Bhakti padaya. That, why should we do this for mukti? We want to do this for bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, pure devotional service, prema bhakti, is the supreme perfection of liberation. So devotees must be very, very philosophically, logically, scientifically convinced of these principles. Otherwise, it's very easy to be distracted toward sense gratification, toward other spiritual paths that for a much less price we get peace, we get success, we may even get some powers. We may even strive for that liberation. But vyabhashayatmaka bodhirekeha kurunandana bahushaka hinantascha bhutayo vyabhashayanam. A devotee must be fixed in purpose, resolute in determination. Those Krishna says those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, fixed in their determination. I want prema bhakti. I want pure devotional service. I want to put myself under the control of Srimati Radharani's energy. I want to be in Srimati Radharani's camp of devotional service. And there's nothing else that has any appeal, no charm. And how do we achieve that? The dust of the feet of Srimati Radharani. Naisha Matistavaru Rukramangri. The dust of the feet of Srimati Radharani are available through the dust of the feet of her devotees, through service. That is our conviction. Do not allow our minds to deviate or be attracted to any of these lesser temptations, either material or spiritual. That is Srila Prabhupada's great gift. And that is the sum and substance of today's illustrious verse. To chant Hare Krishna and be happy. We have gone slightly over time today, but not as much as last Tuesday. Should we have one question from Mahaprabhu Prabhu? You do not require the mic, but as a matter of social etiquette, you can use the mic. Just like
Maharaj,
great souls don't require to do many of the principles of sadhana bhakti, but they do it just out of social etiquette. Yes.
actually, there is no question required after your hearing your lecture, but something bothering me. This morning I was reading something, and you mentioned, you read out in the purport also something about, some reference, one line about vanaprastha or sannyas, some reference was there in that.
We've been all waiting so many years for you to ask this question.
Now, what bothered me...
So many years, the whole congregation have been awaiting this question.
Now, what I read this morning, and that connected with this, you read out, in which, in 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 18th chapter on 13th verse is stated that grastas, mean people who stay at home after 50, Prabhupada said in the commentary, after 50 years of age, then they are in the position of just like a crocodile out of water. He has no power to do any harm to anybody. Means not that word used, any harm, but they are practically useless. So my point is this, that in our consular system itself, there are about, when I was counting out, 30 senior people, husband and wife, means about 30%. And most of the people who here, they attend the class, they are all young people. Now, if the philosophy is so powerful, means what Srila Prabhupada said in the purport, that they are, if they are staying in family, they are like a crocodile, and they are completely useless. They are wasting their time. But we have several excuses. Just like I have excuse, I thought I was planning something, but all of a sudden I came to know that there is some problem for my wife's health. If I run away, people will say, well, you you just want to enjoy life and you are not taking responsibility. So the point I'm asking, and that's the problem for 30% of the people or counselor system who are still in the family life with one excuse or other, how we should come out of that when we know we are completely useless.
Govinda Prabhu will answer your question. He says he will talk privately to you. We must understand the spirit of what Srila Prabhupada is speaking. The spirit of Grihastha life is we have many worldly responsibilities we fulfill while simultaneously executing our Krishna consciousness. Vanaprastha life, when the children are grown and when we're getting older, closer to the dusk of our earthly existence, then we are supposed to relinquish all of these worldly responsibilities and fix our mind on devotional service, both husband and wife together. That is proper Vanaprastha life. So, if there are such facilities where the husband and wife, go into the forest and wear tree bark and all of that stuff, which is recommended in the Bhagavatam, but most people cannot survive that. Yes? So therefore, even if we live at home, but our home is no longer a Grihastha ashram, it becomes a Vanaprastha ashram. In other words, there's no more striving for material benefits. There's no more sense gratification. There's no more sense gratification between the husband and the wife. There's no more working hard to maintain material responsibilities. There's just the worship of Krishna and tapasya of keeping our mind fixed in the service of the Lord, service of the Vaishnavas, and especially helping the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya did tell the Kurma Brahmin, there's no need for you to leave home. But leave the materialistic side. He was a Grihastha at that time, of course. So he maintained his Grihastha ashram. When you enter into Vanaprastha, it's the spirit of Vanaprastha that is all important. The vow of Vanaprastha. You can go somewhere else, but if you make your own home a Vanaprastha ashram and not get entangled in all these material pursuits, but really, really focus your life on preaching and on cultivating your own Krishna consciousness, then that is not useless. You're not a crocodile. You are, what animal is he? Huh? Swan. Swan, you are like a swan. Does that answer your question? But you have to be honest. It's not that you stay home and you say everything's transcendental, this is Vanaprastha ashram, but you're still worried about all materialistic things. The problem with staying at home is, in that situation, you just get dragged down again and again and again into so many material things. Yes? That's why usually Vanaprasthas leave home. But if you're just detached from those material things to that extent, you're really detached from those materialistic things and making your home really into an ashram to serve Vaishnavas, to preach Krishna consciousness and to cultivate your own Krishna consciousness, then that is perfect. And as far as your good wife, that is Vaishnav Seva, taking care. But to the extent your children can actually take the responsibility of taking care of the physical aspects of your wife, it's more proper for you and your wife to really not be focused on spiritually elevating each other, and let the children take care about the material side. That's the responsibility of the children. The responsibility of children is to allow the parents to gracefully enter into Vanaprastha stage and not keep them dragged into material affairs. Because as they say, what goes around comes around. If you set a proper example, the children of really taking all these responsibilities, even if it's very, very difficult with Krishna in the center, to facilitate your parents completely giving all their energies to Krishna consciousness, then your children may do the same for you. It's very difficult. We have seen many times in the scriptures and in histories of saints, if the children don't allow the parents to do this, then the parents just walk away rather than get just the fag end of their life just being entangled and dragged into all these worldly affairs. But if the children facilitate it, then the parents could live in their Vanaprastha ashram and go back home, back to God. Does that answer your question? Thank you very much. One more question. Yes, Sri Dhammasaka Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a very, very inspiring lecture. I was just wondering, Maharaj, that the standard that is set for us in Krishna consciousness is the highest possible standard. And we, as we stand at this point, we are nowhere. Absolutely, we are nowhere. So I was just wondering, on one side, as part of our, working life, we spend so much time with materialistic people. We behave in a materialistic way to perform our duties, our job. And hardly a very small percentage of our life we are really, trying to engage in the process of pure devotional service. So, will this lifetime be enough? And if we are born again and again, the Kali Yuga is progressing so very fast. So we actually worry that how do we really complete the process and...
We may think we're very far away, but actually, you're almost there. Considering 8,400,000 species of life, how rare the human birth is, durlabhamanava janma. Human life is so rare amongst the 8,400,000 species. And considering in human life, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes this to Rupa Goswami, yes? Most people in human life are simply after materialistic sense gratification, living like two-legged animals. It's very rare for someone who's actually following real religion. And of those who are following real religion, most of human society are doing it karma kanda, just for material benefits. It's very rare to find someone who's even aspiring for liberation. And of those who are aspiring for liberation, it's very rare to find one who wants pure devotional service. Yes? Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai Bhakti Lata Bij. Very rare. After millions and millions and millions of births rotating through through so many species in this universe, one actually approaches the parampara and begins the path of bhakti. You've come a long way, my friend. You're really close. You are really, really close. You've gone millions and millions and millions and millions, maybe billions of years till you've come to this point, and now you're actually on the path of pure devotional service under the care of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You are so close. It's like the last stretch of the race. You're right there. But you have to be serious. Don't lose it and go back down. So we should understand, we're so close but so far. And since it's taken us all this trouble and all this time to come to this point, and this human form of life is so short, and we can actually become perfect in this life if we just make the right choices. How serious we should be to make the right choices. And if we simply become serious to make the right choices, you already know the philosophy. You know what's favorable. You know what's unfavorable. Yes? You have the association of devotees. You have the dust of thousands of devotees' lotus feet here. Yes? You have Prabhupada's grace, his instructions, his heart, his soul, Prabhupada is giving to you. Just chant Hare Krishna sincerely. Dance in kirtan. Take nice prasad. Kevala Ananda Kanda. It's very easy, very joyful. But we just have to practice it very sincerely. And by the mercy of Krishna, which comes, if we simply please Guru and Krishna, Yasya Prasada, Bhagavat Prasada, please the Vaishnavas, they will give you this gift. We just have to be diligent and sincere. Does that answer your question? As far as you're wasting so much time and so little energy goes into Krishna consciousness, if that's what you really feel your life is about, it's time to make some adjustments and make some wise choices. If you know that that's what's going on, don't just be controlled by the momentum of your past foolishness. Change. Yes? Understand the importance. Focus on bhakti. Put it as the center of your life. Doesn't mean you are irresponsible in your worldly activities, but focus on your sadhana, focus on your association, focus on your service, and integrate everything else you're doing with that. And we all have that power if we just make the choice. Krishna will help us. God helps those who help themselves. Damodar Lila, those two fingers, the devotee's sincere endeavor and Krishna's mercy. That's what binds Krishna. Krishna is bound by one who endeavors and who he gives, and on the basis of our endeavor and the sincerity of that endeavor, Krishna bestows his mercy. And then Krishna Karshani, the rope of that love. Krishna is most happy to be bound by that. Does that answer your question? Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.